2, you see the challenge that we face right now. We are an abject failure in stewardship. Only 5% of the population actually does tithe. That's a pretty good 5% to study, but in general, we're failing with 95% of the population. Our common vision is that everybody gets it, donates 10% of their money and 10% of their time, and they are good stewards. Now, if we're a success at this stewardship effort, then we'll make fundraising superfluous. Wouldn't that be a great thing? Where you have that kind of money flowing in where you don't need to have an annual campaign. Now, this workshop is not personal financial planning. If you need that, talk to Matt Shanefeldt. He's our resident guru in personal financial planning. If somebody goes through a personal financial planning workshop, like Heartland Financial Concepts, their giving is triple the national average because they teach giving as one of their main components. Giving is an element of stewardship, and they give about 6%, which is about triple the national average. That's one thing you can do today to jumpstart generosity in your church. Presbyterian Church of Stanley did this during their capital campaign. We had a combined capital and annual together. Their annual giving went up by 10%, just through the virtue of individual financial. This idea, okay? It got St. James Episcopal Church in New York City an increase in annual giving of 16%. Could you use an extra 16%? Yes. They had a board, the way they're organized, you could call it a board or a session or a pastoral council, but they had a board of about a dozen folks who were the elders of the church, their board of directors. They divided their congregation among those 12, gave them all their portion, about 100 calls each. They called every single household and they asked one question. I'm a member of the board. What might we pray for on your behalf? I'm a board member, I'm concerned about your spiritual well-being. What might I pray for? But for you. That's it. Thank you. Then they sent them a follow-up note and said, hey, this is when we're doing it, this is how we're doing it. Giving goes up 16%. This happened 9 months ago. The worst, most rotten economic nugget in here comes from good to great, but involvement, engagement, in decision-making. We had a near disaster in a church in Harrisonville where the former pastor, you probably know him, I'm not going to say his name, but because he's ascended up the ladder in his denomination now, he's a big wheel, but he built a church and the roof leaked and left them with a big debt. And people were ready to kill me personally when we went in there to do a capital campaign to wipe out the debt. And a lot of anger, turmoil, and they're taking it out on me. We got the former pastor to come back. We facilitated a bunch of town hall meetings, active listening sessions. We all got beat up together. But what happened is we did a capital campaign, raised a bunch of money, but their annual giving went up by about 20% too. This begins to address your question of apathy. Is it good or is it bad? I say anything. Anything. Conflict is probably good because it stirs the pot and gets people engaged. Now, at the bottom of page 2 is the essence of our failure analysis. We know we're a failure, but why are we a failure? Because we think that standing in the pulpit and telling people to give works. That will work, according to the research at UCLA, with 7% of the people. 93% need an experience. 93% need some experience to change them. So words work with some, but boy, not all. Now there's a ton of research on that, but I think that's something we all need to remember. The design of this system is to facilitate revelation, to facilitate the discovery that stewardship is a good thing, that it is part of me and who I am. I want to shift gears, page 3. I want to compare the stewardship system with the secular model. In the secular world, I spent 10 years of my life fundraising in the secular world. These are the 5 elements of the fundraising paradigm. Identify who has money. Number 2, educate them about the need. Number 3, cultivate that prospect 5 times. In other words, we develop our relationship. Number 4, ask them for a specific amount. Ask them for a dollar amount for which they would receive a designated benefit. A plaque, a notification, a listing in the annual campaign brochure, a performance named after them, something. It's a transaction. And then number 5, the thank you. In the stewardship system, it's a very different approach. Number 1, teach stewardship. What is the idea that God's blessings flow through us? Number 2, teach people how to base decisions in prayer. That's called discernment. The third is to build community, build social connections between people. Number 4, engaging people in decision making, to involve everybody. So when we start to think about apathy, people are going to be very apathetic about my decisions for them. That apathy goes away when it is their decisions about their community. Number 5 is elevating volunteerism. 2 statistics that you'll never forget your entire life. And one of them is great, one's horrifying. That the average volunteer gave 10 times to their church what the non-volunteer gave. Horrifying one. 44% of those people surveyed said, if my church or my organization cannot use my volunteer skills, I would look elsewhere. Number 6 in the paradigm is you have to ask. Matter of fact, you got to ask 4 times per year. Why is that? People have different mental strategies for giving. 2 very different ways of looking at stewardship. Now, let's look on page 4. This is a really neat example because this is a father and son from a small church in a small town in Oklahoma. This is one of those little jewels where a relationship between a father and son just reveals a whole lot about the nature of stewardship. They were similar. They were in the same business. Dad founded the business. They both were in wars. They both were decorated. They were both upstanding citizens. The difference, one was a good donor, one was a great donor. And the difference is highlighted in bold. And you can see the differences. And is it generational? I don't know. Is it age? I don't know. I think it's the life circumstances that are revealed there, and they're bold. The big differences, you see a lot of similarities, but look in bold. One read the church bulletin, and in that church bulletin was a steady stream, a diet of what is stewardship. Ed Sr. was also a member of a prayer group regularly. He had a real active prayer life. Ed Sr. was a volunteer 5 hours per month at church. Very different from Ed Jr. being a volunteer at the Y or whatever the sports activities were. I'm going to bet he was a really good donor to the sports activity that his kids were involved in. But if you look at the bottom line, giving the church of Ed Sr. was 10%, Jr. was 2%. So what's the difference between good and great in this little microcosm? Education, involvement, prayer. All right, let's flip. Next page, the Stewardship Committee. I only want to spend about 30 seconds on it, and I want to say 2 words. Do it. Have a Stewardship Committee. Give them the job. When Clayton asked for measurements, who does it? It's the stewardship team. Who sets objectives and measures success, evaluates, revises? It's the stewardship team. Now, one of our core mission is to help with stewardship. What we want to do is snip this workshop that you're at today down in about 10 different parts and just email it out to stewardship teams and say, look, take a 2-minute break every stewardship team meeting and learn about how prayer affects giving, how involvement, how volunteerism. So wouldn't it be great if every stewardship team had a 3-minute education every month? Wouldn't it be great if they had an agenda and a set of responsibilities and targets and a way to evaluate their success, as well as a bunch of research and best practices to back them up? Somebody's got to do it, and you know who it's not? It should not be your pastor. Your pastor is there to guide the church spiritually, but this is an in the trenches job that has to be assigned to somebody, and they've got to be good at marketing. As you look at the characteristics of a successful stewardship team, these are marketing-oriented people. You got to train them. They got to be good at publications. They've got to manage the process of educating and involving. So in 2 words, please do it.